Jesus, I'm speechless.
Stop the fight, man.
What a performance. That's one of the best performances from a British heavyweight of all time.
It was a one-sided boxing lesson and a one-sided beating. He's never fought like this before, has he, in a competitive fight, Tyson? Oh, shot. Oh, Deontay looks wobbly. I think they both know that this could end at any second.
So round one, it would be easier to start looking at what Fury did well in terms of the punch he was landed, but you noticed straight away that his positioning was aggressive and that he was doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, it was a technical thing. His attitude and his balance were totally dominant. His back leg was underneath him, which meant that he had a more dominant position to let the right hand go. He hurt, I think, in the first round, Deontay got a taste of what was behind the shots tonight, and he never came out of that moment. And it became then like the following rounds of just waiting for Tyson to land shots to end the fight. And it was fundamentals. It was fundamentals, his attitude and technique. Because Deontay was the smaller man in this fight as well, and he's used to being the bigger man, it exposed his fundamental flaws, that he has bad balance, that he doesn't have head movement and technical setups to get to a bigger man. And Tyson applied the Kronk mentality to it, that he stepped to him, tested him in the first round, and was the bigger, longer-armed, more dominant hunter in the fight. And although, you know, we sat there, always half waiting for that danger shot of Deontay Wilder, but his legs weren't underneath him. His legs weren't right after that first round. It reminded me of Hagler Hearns and how Tommy Hearns' legs were after the first round of that fight, and he never recovered. His bravery kept him in there, and his competitive heart kept him in there, but his technical flaws let him down big time.
With Fury, you said before that, I'm not saying you necessarily bought into the stuff, but you could see where Sugar Hill and Andy Lee were going to add to his game, but the changes were wholesale from the first fight, weren't they?
Well, the effects of the simple changes, when I say simple in terms of they weren't gonna rewrite Tyson Fury. They couldn't make him any bigger than he was. But certainly his leg positioning and his attitude right from the start was what I expected to see, because he wasn't going to start working with Sugar Hill and Andy Lee and for them not to have an input. I don't think they would have taken the job if they couldn't have had an input. And that was the only input they were going to have. And also because Tyson has a lot of defensive maturity, the one reservation I had is, would he have the defensive minds or the defensive skill set to go behind an aggressive mentality? And he did, because he had the height and the reach on him. He only needed to make a couple of little moves to nullify anything that Deontay threw back at him.
Looking at that first round, you talk about the battle of the jabs, there was no battle, was there?
No, there was no battle the entire fight. Once he let Deontay know what he was capable of in that first round, Deontay was never in the fight.
This is a guy that in the last fight, Deontay said had pillow fists and couldn't hurt him.
Yeah, but that's a guy coming off of a 2-year layoff, of mental health problems, having to lose however much weight he had to lose. And like I said, I saw
10 stone,
I saw him in Monaco, and he was in a terrible state. And if you'd have said, that man is going to be where he is tonight, I would have asked who was going to wave the magic wand. Massive turnaround. That's that Kronk attitude. Back leg in, be dominant, and jam that hard jab.
Great shots. He had success with a double jab right hand in the first fight as well, didn't he?
Yeah, but almost in comparison to this, with no confidence or belief behind it. Now he's just stepping to him like he's already knocked him out before. Can't go much longer. Deontay looks like a sitting duck at the moment. Tyson is trying to knock him out, and that's all he's trying to do. Attitude is everything, and Tyson's attitude in this fight is, he's definitely the hunter. Shot.
Oh, he's gone.
Shot. No, it was on the back of the head.
So in round 3 came the first knockdowns where he piled in a right hand behind the jab. Basics.
Yeah, Deontay's balance was already struggling there. Now, somebody alluded, I think, to a damaged ankle by one of the fighters going into the fight. Maybe it was Deontay, but he's always had bad balance. You know, he's always, whenever he can't stand still, we said it before in the preview, that if you make him move, he doesn't have good balance. And Tyson shifted him back with his dominance, through the right hand. It cuffed him behind the ear.
Yeah, it was like up here, wasn't it? High on the head.
So I wouldn't say he was hurt any more after that shot than he was before. I think he was hurt. He was stunned in the first round, and I don't think he ever recovered from that. And the third round was just a knockdown from everything that had gone on before.
It seemed to be from that, in that round 3, he'd gone from being a remote threat to almost being no threat and a sitting duck.
Well, it was almost like after round 1, I'm thinking, when's he going to land the shot? When's he going to land the shot? It just looked like he was. I'm not saying Deontay had quit, but in a fighting sense, it only looked a matter of time before he was going to get caught and the fight was going to have ended.
Teddy Atlas calls people like that, I think he calls them game quitters, where they stay in there even if they know that they don't have the chance to turn it around. Do you think Wilder thought he still had that chance to turn it around, or do you think he was just trying to hang in there?
Quitters don't stay in there. That's the definition of the term. You quit, you resign, you walk off.
But psychologically, do you think he'd given up hope of winning?
I don't think psychologically necessarily he quit. He just didn't have an answer because he didn't have the fundamentals to get into the fight. He was the smaller man in the fight. And one thing I always am mindful of when coaching is that if you're the smaller man, you have to do more of everything. You've got to move your feet more, you've got to move your head more. You have to do more of the setups just to land the same shots that the other fella only has to stand there and throw because he has the size advantage. Now, not only did Tyson have the size advantage and the reach advantage, but he had the weight advantage as well. So Deontay had all those elements. And he's not a Mike Tyson, Joe Frazier type fighter that moves his head and moves his feet at the same time whilst going into distance, whilst coming off the line to get past the jab. Deontay doesn't have any of those elements. He just stood upright and tall, behaving like he was the bigger man. And in this fight, that's what Tyson did. He didn't concede those attributes by going on the back foot and using lots of feints and trying to make him miss. He used those attributes to be the dominant man and used the bigger attributes. And because he had the fundamentals to go with it, the back leg was underneath him, he established everything off an unpredictable jab that was led by feints. Deontay didn't have an answer for any of that game.
He wasn't expecting anything like this.
Well, he did say he was going to do it, didn't he? And then
he said a lot of things over the years.
We second-guessed it, yeah.
Wilder bleeding from the ear?
Yeah.
That's down. A body shot almost pushed him down, isn't it? Beginning of the end? First round was the beginning of the end.
Yeah. What was that for?
Is he taking a point?
Wow. Hey, Deontay had a touch there from the ref.
So into round 5, it looked like Wilder had that one chance of landing that lottery ticket, but when you look at a Wilder fight, you always think he has that one chance. But by round 5, it looked like even that was hugely unlikely.
It looked hugely unlikely very early on in the fight, very early in the first round. And it was just this, we're kind of overanalyzing now the same element that he was never in the fight because the one approach that Tyson took was enough. Because Deontay didn't have the technical game to deal with it. He had the mindset, he wanted to be in there, he wanted to land the shot, he wanted to win the fight, he just didn't have the skill sets to go behind it.
Because the only thing he was trying was jab and then falling in with the right hand.
There were some desperate looking right hands and I think in the entire fight, that's all there was, just some desperate looking right hands. In that 5th round, there was the knockdown from a body shot, but it wasn't a body shot knockdown where he was winded and struggling for air. It was a knockdown, he got hit to the body, but where his legs had been taken away from him, from everything that had gone on before, he just went down. And then, for some reason, Kenny Bayless deducted a point
from Fury, yeah.
Holding or pushing down, that's what he remonstrated.
Well, you were saying at the time that Fury was almost smothering his work in the sense that he was jabbing and engaging in too close when he didn't need to.
In the 5th and 6th round, his legs weren't going with him when he was throwing the shots. But that's nothing to take a point off for.
No,
You know,
of course.
I think really it takes time to deduct a point.
And
it was almost like in doing that, he was kind of giving Deontay a little bit of time to get himself back together. It looked like that the home ref was giving the home fighter any opportunity he could to get himself back together, but it was never going to happen.
During those exchanges, and when they were in close and holding, there was no sign of any kind of turnaround, was there? I mean, it was just, Fury was just dominant.
It was a totally dominant performance, and when Deontay did let a couple of desperate right hands go, they never remotely looked close to troubling Tyson, and I think one landed and the rest were easily seen. A one-sided boxing lesson.
Yeah, Fury has wound up with some swelling or a bit of marking up here on the left side of his head, which might have come from one of the two of those right hands.
Or it could have come from just where in the fifth and sixth round he was falling in with his shots, and he might have just bumped heads with him.
I think there was a chat there with Bayliss about clashing their heads, so yeah, it could have just been
a fight, right? That's a fight. You've got two fellas trying to knock each other out. That's going to happen sometimes. Has Tyson been caught once yet?
Not properly, no.
He's been a sitting duck since the start of the round.
JD is trying to say so.
No, they should pull him out. That's not the posture of a man that wants to carry on.
Oh,
that's it.
Stop
the fight, man.
Yeah, he's made up his mind. There we go. That's it. So at the end of the sixth, you were saying that the corner, Mark Breland, Jay Diaz, could have pulled Wilder out then.
I mean, in hindsight, he was never in the fight, and we had that feeling that he wasn't in the fight while it was going through. And it was before the end of the sixth round, he just looked like he was done, that his legs were so far gone that there wasn't even a lucky punch left in him.
You saw it then, with that air of inevitability. I think we both saw it. Lots of people saw it. But if you're the trainer of this guy who's got this Thor's hammer of a right hand, do you leave him in thinking, you know, everything could change?
No. Your job as a coach is to guide them through the fight and keep them as safe as possible. But you've got to prepare them for the fight as well. Yeah, blood coming out of his ear that wasn't a superficial bit of bleeding. So I hope Deontay's okay and that there's nothing sinister there. But it wasn't superficial bleeding. It wasn't like the lobe was torn. The blood was coming from inside the ear. So I was surprised that the doctor wasn't called to inspect that, or at least we didn't see that. We didn't see the doctor inspect it. He had swelling coming up on the side of his head as well. He'd been hurt, he'd been dropped twice. It was obvious he didn't have an answer and he was only going to take more of the same, and he was hurt before the end of the sixth round as well.
And gassed.
And in between the rounds, he was slumped forward. It wasn't like he was engaging in what was being said to him, or even just leaning in to listen. He was slumped forward like an exhausted man. If all of those elements aren't enough of a sign for a coach to stop a fight, I don't know what is.
Well, they weren't. And so he went out into round 7, and there was an air of inevitability about what was going to happen. And it was basically about Fury trying to maintain the right distance where he could strike from that distance without smothering his work and getting too greedy or trying to take too much. It was about being patient and picking the shots.
Tyson beautifully got a grip of his technique in his legs again. Like I said, I remember saying in the 5th and the 6th rounds, he was falling in with his shots because his hands were going before his feet. Because he'd never been that aggressive in a fight before. That was the first ever time that Tyson has approached a fight at that level in that manner. And he had a little bit of self-adjustment to do. But I think whatever was said to him by Sugar Hill or Andy Lee in the corner in between the 6th and the 7th, he got a grip of where he was in how he was going about the fight, and that was all he needed to do to end it. The last real significant shot he landed, he set up beautifully. He distracted him with the left hand. He had those bouncing legs. He shifted back with a bounce and sprung back in with a 1-2. And the rhythm of that bounce and that 1-2 was almost like Larry Holmes, the way that it landed. And Deontay was propped up in the corner. His heart still intact, his bravery still intact, but with nothing left to give. and taking more significant shots. And that one shot was enough for then the corner to throw the towel in.
He said he wanted to go out on his shield, so that shows that his mindset shows that he admits that he was sold out. There was nothing left. The fact that that's all he had left was that honour to go out on his shield.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that it was obvious to everyone that he didn't have the technical ability to win that fight. But he was in the fight, and that he was prepared to take whatever was going to be dished out to him before he lost. The corner's job is to protect a fighter from that mentality.
The referee or the corner, they could have been excused for stopping it a good bit earlier, though, couldn't they?
In the sixth, yeah. Towards the end of the sixth or after the sixth round, the fight could have been stopped. It was over. It was over way before that, but to the point where it had gone on long enough to stop the fight.
They needed to, just for the formalities to take place.
It was a one-sided boxing lesson and a one-sided beating.
So was that a career best performance from Tyson?
Absolutely, yeah. Deontay going into that fight, what was he, 41 wins, 40 knockouts and 1 draw. The most feared puncher in the heavyweight division. Tyson changed trainers, changed attitude, and said, I'm going to take it to him. I'm not scared of his power. I'm going to make him scared of mine. I know I can hurt him. That's a massive turnaround. It's a bigger turnaround as I've seen technically and mentally in any fighter in such a short space of time.
With Tyson, people don't know if he's telling the truth or bluffing, but he said what he was going to do all along.
But he set it up for the rest of his career now. It doesn't matter what he says, no one can know whether they can take it on face value. So basically, just like he sets everything up with double feints in his fights, he set up everything for the rest of his career as double feints as well because of
his unpredictability, everything that he's done.
He can box you, or he can set about you.
He can be southpaw, he can be negative, he can be
Southpaw,
positive.
all foot, back foot, front foot. Trade with the most feared puncher, or outbox one of the most competent boxers in Vladimir Klitschko. So his resume, his confidence, his evolution as a fighter and a champion is still growing, and that is a heady thought.
This is a hard question. Are you disappointed in Wilder?
No, not necessarily, because for a long time it's been obvious that Deontay's legs were going to be his downfall, because whenever he's made to miss or made to move while he's punching, it falls apart. So there was the fundamentals that weren't there. No, I'm not disappointed. I can't criticise Deontay. All I can do is praise Tyson Fury and just sit here and wonder how good can he be, because on that performance, mentally and technically, he may only just be starting to tap into his actual potential that all of a sudden he's realising.
He's talking about only having 3 more fights now.
Well, he might be a smart man if he does that. I don't think he needs the money now.
No, that would have certainly helped him out. Where do you think these guys go from here? I mean, we'll start with Tyson.
Well, my understanding is that the loser of that fight, so Deontay Wilder, has the right to exercise the rematch clause, accepting 40%, so a 60-40 split in the winner's favour. So it's up to Deontay. It's whether Deontay feels that after such a one-sided fight that he can step straight back to that.
Commercially, that's a hard sell, isn't it, as well?
It's a hard sell, but they've got no choice. They've got no choice because it's in Deontay. It's contracted. It's in Deontay's hands. If I was advising Deontay, if he wants to continue and if he wants to try and be a champion again, I'd probably suggest that he negotiates his position and gets down to working on and adding the elements to his game that were missing badly tonight. I'd negotiate a position and I'd probably turn around to Fury and AJ and say, okay, I'll let you two fight, but I want this for allowing it to happen, and I want a straight shot at the winner, because contractually he has that option.
Is there a chance that he's never going to be the same again after a fight like that?
It's possible, yeah. It's very possible because, well, certainly with Tyson Fury, because Tyson's got the size, the reach, the weight, the skill set, the mentality, the boxing know-how, everything to deal with what he is as a fighter. Deontay wasn't in that fight at all. Not one.
Not for 1 second.
Not one bit, not for 1 second.
People said he needed to win 1 second of the fight to win.
He wasn't even there. Wasn't even half a second. And the one right hand that landed had nothing on it because Tyson knew how to ride it. So he's so far away from being able to compete equally in the rematch, let alone win it, that I would say that even him being able to compete equally in the rematch would be a bigger turnaround than what Tyson's just done.
So Joshua is due to fight Pulev first. Assuming that he gets by Pulev, which will be the wide assumption, I mean, I'm asking you, I suppose, to put on a manager's hat, is that a fight that do you think can be made with the promotional splits and TV
can be made,
splits
but do they want to? Like, do they want to give Matchroom, DAZN, the opportunity to enjoy such a huge event when, you know, I think AJ's played his position up until now, but having lost to Andy Ruiz and then regained the title, and what Tyson has gone and done, I think that they probably feel now that they have the main bargaining. And remember, let's not forget one thing. Before Tyson fought and beat Klitschko, Klitschko had all the belts tied up.
Yeah.
Only because Tyson beat Klitschko and then had that extended period out, the belts became unlocked and available, and AJ then went and won those belts that were made available. So to say that Tyson isn't the one that deserves the primary position and primary slot would be ignoring the facts. But the facts are that he was the one that beat Klitschko, so the man that beat the man. He's now gone and taken the rightful victory that we thought he earned. In the first fight with Deontay, he's picked up WBC belt, Ring Magazine belt, and commercially and in a fighting sense has really put himself top of the pile.
I don't like talking about A sides and B sides, but vanity is a big thing when it comes to negotiating in boxing. So will Fury now contend that he's the A side of a Joshua fight?
I don't think, at the moment it's in Deontay's hands, because that fight can only be discussed if Deontay relinquishes his option for the rematch. But let's assume that he does. I think there'll be some posturing if and when that fight gets made. There'll certainly be some negotiating posturing, but AJ's bringing a lot of belts to the table, and Fury is bringing that win, his name, and his unbeaten status as the lineal champion to the table. I think 50% is going to be enough for both of them. You know, to start saying, I want that extra 10%, for the fight not to happen for that seems a bit crazy.
We've seen it happen.
We have, but I just think that 50% of that pot is going to be more than either of them need.
Do you ever see Wilder being a world heavyweight champion again?
Before tonight, could we see Tyson Fury dominating Deontay Wilder like that? He's got a lot of cracks that have been papered over to deal with in his technical game.
Ben Davison, in many ways, is going to be a forgotten man here, I think, because of what the transformation that we've seen with Tyson. That's quite hard, given that Ben's been on that journey with Tyson where he's helped him back from the brink.
Well, you could say that, but then you're now making Peter Fury the forgotten man, because Peter Fury was with Tyson Fury when? For a lot of his career?
Yeah, sure.
Who was with Tyson when he beat Klitschko?
Yeah, Peter.
Right, so you could talk about Ben being the forgotten man, well then go back a step, because Peter was the one that trained him for most of his career. Now, Ben did a good job with Tyson, right? But don't ignore Peter. Now, Peter's not necessarily the one on social media and being active and being in front of your cameras and doing the interviews, but don't make him the forgotten man. Yes, there are coaches that have significant influence in fighters' career at different stages. Ben has done a great job with Tyson because probably just as much as a friend and a man helped him get back to from that abyss that he was in. And that's a monumental job in itself. He could probably set up a personal training business that would get worldwide recognition just off that one client alone. But so he's done his job. Don't forget Peter Fury. And look at the changes in one training camp that Tyson had the mental fortitude to approach. Because it's okay saying adjust your balance, be more dominant with your jab, and be more assertive with your position. It's one thing teaching them technically, and you can do that in shadow boxing and on pads, but to then step into an event that big against a fighter that dangerous and do it, that's a monumental performance by Tyson Fury when you look at it like that. So I don't think Ben will be forgotten unfairly. I don't think he'll be forgotten. Peter Fury shouldn't be forgotten. But in the same token, don't disrespect or disregard what Sugar Hill and Andy Lee have just encouraged Tyson Fury to do, technically. Because what you're saying is, go and have a shootout with someone that everyone is saying is probably the hardest puncher in the history of heavyweight division. And they've gone, nah, don't worry about that. Use your size, use your feints, and apply the basics on him. And he did.
So who's the #1 heavyweight in the world now?
Well, who beat the man that beat the man?
Going back to Tyson.
Who's unbeaten?
Going back to Tyson.
Then I think you have to say Tyson Fury.
Adam, thank you very much. If you guys have enjoyed Counterpunch with myself and Adam Booth, then by all means subscribe, share, and like this page, and we'll bring you more in the near future.